Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Chapter 3 Bhagavad-Gita, which is entitled Karma Yoga. So today's verse is 29th verse. I will recite the verse 3 times, then others can recite also after that. Prakṛter guṇa-sammūḍhāḥ sajjante guṇa-karmasu tān akṛtsna-vido mandān kṛtsna-vin vicālayet. Okay, we will say word to word meaning. Prakṛteḥ, of material nature. Guna, by the moods. Asammūḍhāḥ, be fooled by material identification. Sajjante, they become engaged. Guṇa-karmasu, in material activities. Tān, those. akṛtsna-vidaḥ, persons with a poor fund of knowledge. Mandān, lazy to understand self-realization. Kṛtsna-vit, one who is in factual knowledge. Na, not. Vicālayet, should try to agitate. So translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. Purport: persons who are unknowledgeable falsely identify with gross material consciousness and are full of material designations. This body is a gift of the material nature, and one who is too much attached to the bodily consciousness is called mandān, or a lazy person without understanding of spirit soul. Ignorant men think of the body as the self. They accept bodily connections with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the body is obtained is their object of worship, and they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be ends in themselves. Social work, nationalism, and altruism are some of the activities for such materially designated persons. Under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for human being. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So this verse, as we all know, let us first understand what is this karma yoga. Why is even Krishna talking about this karma yoga? So as we all know, in the very first chapter, Arjuna gave 5 reasons desiring not to fight. And one out of those 5 was, quickly we can go through what those 5 reasons were. The very first reason he gave was compassion. So the people whom he is going to kill, he was not willing to kill all these great souls like teachers, maternal uncles, great-grandfathers and all. So the first reason he gave was compassion. Second reason was enjoyment. Third reason was fear of sinful reactions. Fourth reason he gave was destruction of dynasty. And fifth reason he gave was indecision. So the third reason that he gave was fear of sinful reactions. So Arjuna was worried that if I fight and if I kill all these people, I will have to suffer severe sinful reactions and go to hell and suffer for millions of lives. I don't want to engage in this ghastly warfare. So he declined to fight. So here Krishna is telling him that nature of the soul is to be active. So Arjuna wants to go to the forest. He wants to renounce his prescribed duty as a Kshatriya and he wants to go to the forest and do his own meditation. So that no work, no reaction. Renunciation means no work, no reaction. So that is Arjuna's understanding. So actually how this chapter, Krishna is going to tell in this chapter the art of doing work. What is the art of doing work? Every action has a reaction. That is why we have been transmigrating into different types of bodies. In the 8th chapter, Arjuna asks, in the very first verse, Arjuna uvacha kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adibhutam cha kim proktam adidaivam kim uchyate. So Arjuna is asking, kim tad brahma, what is Brahman? Kim adhyatma, what is the self? And kim karma, means what are fruitive activities? So what is this karma? So let us understand what is this karma. So Krishna is telling action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma. So because of this karma, we have been continuously transmigrating into different types of bodies. Now we may have human form, dog, cat, demigod, whatever different bodies we have been transmigrating. Why is that? Why are we transmigrating? Because of this karma, activities. So in this chapter, Krishna is going to tell everyone must engage in some sort of activity. We cannot not act, we have to act. Why? Because the nature of the soul is to be active. We have to act, we cannot not act. We have to act. So, but actions, they can either bind one or liberate one. So, actions that we do, they might either bind us or liberate us. So, Krishna is going to teach us in this chapter what is the art of doing work which will not bind us to this material world, which will liberate us. So that is the exact thing that Krishna is going to teach us in this chapter. So, by acting for the pleasure of the Supreme without selfish motives, one can be liberated from the law of karma. So, we have to act for the pleasure of the Supreme without selfish motives. Then, what will happen? We will become free from the law of karma, which is action and reaction. So, that is the art of what Krishna is going to teach. So, Arjuna is telling, if I fight, then I'll be incurring sin. So, that is why I rather go to forest and I renounce this action. So, in the very beginning of this chapter, Arjuna is asking Krishna that work or renunciation. Should I work or should I renounce work? This is what in the very beginning Arjuna is asking. So Krishna is told in the second chapter, 49th verse, that is the verse that is connecting to the third chapter. Krishna told in 49th verse of the second chapter, Durena hyevaram karma buddhi-yoga dhananjaya buddhau sharanam anvicha kripana phalahetavaha. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service. And in that consciousness, surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So, Krishna told, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service. So, understanding that fighting is an abominable activity, so Arjuna doesn't want to fight. So then Arjuna is thinking, why is Krishna telling me to still act? He told me to keep all abominable activities far distant. No, fighting is an abominable activity, so keep distant. But then why is he again urging me to fight? So that is the beginning, the chapter is beginning, work or renunciation. It's a bit confusing to Arjuna. Whether I should work or whether I should renounce work. So then Krishna is telling, Arjuna said that jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. So which is better for me, working or renouncing? So this, you have given me equivocal instructions, they are very confusing to me. Please decisively tell me which is better. Then Krishna says, Sri Bhagavan uvacha lokesmin vividhanishta puraprokta maya nagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. There are two ways to realize the self. One is by karma yoga, one is by jnana and one is by karma. Krishna is telling. Then Krishna tells, Arjuna wants to go to forest and renounce his duty and go to the forest. So Krishna is telling, Nakarmana manarambhan naishkarmyam purushosnute nacha sanyasana deva siddhim samadhigacchati nahi kaschit shanamapi jatu tishtatya karmakrit. He is telling, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So, not by merely renouncing the action can one attain. So, one should not by, like, Arjuna is thinking that if I don't act, I won't get reaction, so I will not act. But Krishna is telling, don't think that if you don't act, you will not get reaction. So even like, we have to eat, we have to do all these things, so we cannot not. So the nature of the soul is to be active. Nahi kaschit shanamapi jato tishtatya karmakrit karyate hyavasha karma sarva prakriti jair gunai. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So Krishna is emphasizing this verse that the nature of the soul is to be active. We have to act, we cannot not act. So what sort of activities will bind us? What activities will liberate us? There is no 100 choices, there are only 2 choices. What is that? Action that we do for the pleasure of Krishna will liberate us. Action that we do for our own sense gratification will bind us. Atmendriya priti ichha tare bali kama, Krishnendriya priti ichha dare prema nama. Whatever action we do for our own pleasure is called kama, lust. And whatever actions we do for the pleasure of Krishna is called prema. So whatever we do for the pleasure of Krishna will liberate us. And whatever we do for our own sense pleasure will bind us. So that is the art of doing work. So now Krishna is telling here, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the modes he has acquired from the three modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So many people, so the thing is, this in the yoga ladder, there's a karma and then jnana level. So in the karma level, what are we supposed to do? We have to perform our prescribed duties, and by doing our prescribed duties, we'll get purified and we'll get transcendental knowledge. So unless one is performed their prescribed duties and got purified, they should not do renounce, which is jnana level. So if you prematurely renounce activities without purification of heart, without adhikar, proper prerequisite, if we prematurely renounce, because externally people are wearing orange, but internally they are meditating on sense objects, such a person is called a pretender. Mityachara savujjate. Next verse Krishna says, Karmendriyani samyamya yaste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma karta. No, he says that this is the 6th verse, very interesting verse. Krishna says that Karmendriyani samyamya yaste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mityachara savujjate. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Externally he is wearing orange robes, he has got sannyas danda, but internally he is meditating on sense objects. So then everybody will start to respect him, thinking that, oh, he is a renunciant and all, but internally he is meditating on sense objects. Such a person is called pretender. So better than this pretender is a normal householder who is performing his prescribed duty. So in the next verse Krishna says that Yastvindriyani manasa niyamya rapaterjuna karmendriyai karmayogam asakta sa vishishyate. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness, without attachment, he is by far superior than this mityachara, one who is a pretender. So sincerely they are doing their own prescribed duties, at the same time they are Krishna conscious. Such a person is better than this sannyasi who is a mityachara, who is a pretender. Then Krishna says that perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So what sort of work one should do? Very important verse, 9th verse. Yajna-arthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, what happens? Work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duty for his satisfaction. In that way, you will always remain free from bondage. That is the art of doing work. What is that? What is that work? Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, all other work, what will happen? Karma bandhanaha. It will bind us to this material world. Good and bad work, everything has reaction. If I do something good to somebody, then I have to again take birth to enjoy that good, whatever I have done to others. If I do something bad, then I have to come back and again face that bad reaction. So that is why we have to see that neither good nor bad, Shubha, Ashubha, everything is abominable only in the final this thing. Only devotional service to Krishna is transcendental. Then Krishna is going to tell about, in the beginning of creation, he is going to talk about yajnas. Human form of life is meant to do sacrifice, yajna. So if we don't perform the sacrifice, Krishna very nicely tells in the 16th verse of this chapter, Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayaha aghayorindriya ramo mogham partha sajivati. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifices thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of senses, such a person lives in vain. Human life is meant to do sacrifice. So Krishna very nicely is giving a complete package. When we come to this material world, what is our duty? What are the sacrifices we have to perform? In the 10th verse, Krishna says, Sahayagnya praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prashavishyadvam esavostvishtakāmaduk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by performance of this sacrifice, because it will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and ultimately achieving liberation. So in the beginning of creation, what did the Lord do? He sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by performance of this sacrifice, because by performing this sacrifice, what will happen? You will be bestowed with everything that you require now, desirable for living happily now, and ultimately achieving liberation. Then Krishna in the 3rd chapter is little bit encouraging to do demigod worship. Whereas in the 7th and 9th chapter, Krishna is actually a sort of discouraging to do demigod worship. Why is that? In 3rd chapter, Krishna is telling that Devan bhavayatani na te deva bhavayantuvaha parasparam bhavayantaha shriya paramavapsyata. Is telling the demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you, and thus by cooperation between the demigods, men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. So here Krishna is telling that you have to show your gratitude to the demigods. Where in the 7th chapter and 9th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna is telling that avidhi purvakam, worshipping demigods is like doing indirectly, like, it is a wrong way of worship. So why is that? In 7th and 9th chapter, Krishna is little bit not very much encouraging to do demigod worship, but here he is encouraging. Why is that? Yes, Prabhuji.
Because one who worships the demigod goes to the demigods, and whatever the demigods give is ultimately given by Krishna.
Yeah.
If you are worshipping Krishna, you benefit.
Yeah.
And Krishna can also take you back to the spiritual world. The demigods could come.
Correct. Yeah. Finally, everything, whatever they are giving to their worshippers, they're coming from Krishna himself. But it is because here Krishna is talking in a lower level, there he is talking in a higher level. Here Krishna is telling, like, demigods being pleased by sacrifice will also please you. Thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. Then he is saying that in charge of various necessities of life, the demigods being satisfied with the performance of sacrifice will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. Those who enjoy without showing gratitude to the demigods, such a person is called a thief. But Krishna says that all the food that we eat should be offered as a sacrifice for the Lord. Otherwise, we'll be eating only sin. The next verse, Yagnashishtasina santo muchyante sarvakil bishaihi bhunjate te tvagam papa ye pachantyatma karanat. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Then Krishna is telling in this section how from karma kanda to karma yoga. So all this is karma kanda. Now slowly Krishna is bringing to karma yoga, how karma kanda is going to become karma yoga. So what is happening is living bodies subsist on food grains. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanya dhanna sambhavaha yagnad bhavati parjanyo yagna karma samudbhavaha. Living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Okay, rains are coming from prescribed duties. Rains are coming because of performance of sacrifice. And sacrifice is coming from prescribed duties. So what is that? Living bodies are subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are coming due to performance of sacrifice. And sacrifice is coming from prescribed duties. So ultimately, we are connecting to Krishna. Then Krishna is saying in the 15th verse, Karma brahmodvavam vidhi brahmakshara samudvavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yagne pratishtitam. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, all pervading transcendence is eternally situated in the acts of sacrifice. So slowly Krishna is telling the regulated activities are coming from the Vedas, and Vedas are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what are the Vedas telling? Vedaishcha sarver ahameva vedyo. Krishna says in 15.15, I am seated in everyone's heart. From me comes remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas. So Vedas are coming from the Lord. Then in the human form of life, we have to perform sacrifice. If many people, they don't do anything, they live, eat, drink and marry and enjoy, that's it. Who knows that we had past life? Who knows that we'll have next life? They don't care about this transmigration, and they act vikarma, like that is called vikarma. They act very whimsically, and next life is very risky life. They may not even get human form of life. It's very, very risky. So like that Krishna is telling here, my dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in the human life, cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. Then Krishna is now, in the next section, he is going to talk about, you have to work nishkama karma to set an example. So, what is a self-realized person? How does he act? Yastvatmaratireva syad atmatruptascha manavaha atmanneva cha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is full of self-realization, who is satisfied in the self, he has no duty to perform. He is atmarati. Atmarati means he is completely self-satisfied. Atma truptas is completely very much blissful from within, and then santushtas, he is satiated. So such a person has no duty to perform. He is fully happy within himself. For such a person, there is no duty to perform. But still, a person who is fully, completely purified by the performance of prescribed duties, such a person don't have to actually act. But if he acts also, there's nothing wrong. Why does he have to act? To show people a proper example. So Krishna is giving the example of Janaka Maharaj and himself. So Janaka Maharaj performed his prescribed duties solely. So karmanaiva hi samsiddhim astita janakadayaha lokasangrahamaivapi sampashyan kartum arhasi. Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So why do people who are atmaratis, who are fully satisfied, who are completely purified, and who are completely situated in self-realization, why do they have to work? They don't have to actually work, but still they do these prescribed duties. Why? To set a proper example. Because whatever great yadyadacharati tas tattade vetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastad danuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. That is why it is very important for the great people, the kings, the great monarchs, the father in the family, mother, the gurus, they are all very high responsible positions, because whatever action the great man performs, common men follow. Whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Then Krishna gives his own example. Krishna came to this earth, when he appeared on this earth, he came, yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is decline in religious principles and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time the Lord appears. Why does he appear? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. Krishna has appeared millennium after millennium. So here Krishna is telling that his own example, Name parthashti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam vartaye vachakarmani. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. So, when we do some activity, we want something, right? That is the impetus for which we act. But for Krishna, he is completely independent Swarat, everything is Atmarati, he is Atmaram. What does he want from somewhere that he has to act? He doesn't have to act at all, but still he does. Why is that? He says that Dharma Samsthapanayarthaya Sambhava. So he wants to show example that how to establish the Dharma. So by his personal example, he is showing everyone how one should act. So there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. So Krishna's householder life is very, very exemplary. Krishna used to wake up, guess what time? Wake up very early. Does Krishna have to wake up so early? He doesn't have to wake up. Those days, the alarm clocks weren't there. You know, in the morning, kakarko, this and this, all the villages, even today you can hear this cock crowing, no? Kakarko, then everybody will think, oh, this morning, then everybody will wake up. So Krishna used to hear that, and Rukmini and Krishna, they were hugging and very nicely sleeping. Suddenly this kakarko, Krishna will get up and sit. Oh my God, this Rukmini will think, why does this do? Well, now Krishna is going to leave and go like that, na? Then she is not happy at all about that. But then Krishna, he wakes up and sits and he meditates. On whom does he meditate? On himself. Because he is himself the Lord, right? So he meditates on himself. He wakes up and does all these duties. And even when he was like married 16,108 queens, then he he did in every palace he showed how an ideal householder should perform. He used to wake up early, offer all the respects to the forefathers and everything, when Sudama Brahmana came, how Krishna worshipped his lotus, washed his lotus feet and he sprinkled that water, he offered him arti, everything. So he's showing his personal example, how one should worship Brahmanas, how one should, so all these exemplary activities Krishna is showing. So in the next verse he says that, for if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. So then he's saying, if I do not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So Arjuna said that if I fight, then all the women will become unprotected, and then Varna Sankara will happen. Krishna is countering that argument here, saying that if you don't do your duty, then Varna Sankara will happen. Krishna is telling that if I do not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. Then he's saying that so now from now on Krishna is going to tell the difference between attached worker and a detached worker. So a person in knowledge, how he has to interact with a person who is ignorant. That is what Krishna is going to tell from now on. Saktah karmanya vidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvamsata shaktas chikirshur loka sangraham. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act but without attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path. So two people, they go to the shopping, they both have shopping bags, they took money, they both are going and doing shopping. So externally it appears they both are doing the same activity. But what is the difference between them? So he is also going, he is also getting into rickshaw, he is also going to the vegetable shop, he is also purchasing all the vegetable, whereas the other person is also doing the same activity. So what is the difference? This person, he is doing for his own sense pleasure, whereas the other person, he is thinking, what vegetable shall I buy so that I can make a nice offering to the Lord? Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. So if I do a nice offering to the Lord, I want to please Krishna's senses, pleasure. So that is why, that is his consciousness. Whereas the other person is thinking, what can I make so that I can eat very nice, tasty food like that. So what is the difference between these two people? They both are going to the shopping and they both are buying. What is the difference between these two people? What is that is the difference that's making this person acting for Krishna, this person acting for his own sense pleasure? What is that is difference, that what is making this person act this way and this person act this way? Knowledge, exactly. The knowledge is the one that is difference between these two. This person is in knowledge. Knowledge of Krishna, and he is thinking that this if I do, then so Krishna Surya Sama Maya Hai Andakar Yahan Krishna Tahan Nahi Maya Radhikar. Krishna is like brilliant sun. If Krishna is there in our consciousness, there is no scope for Maya to enter. Whereas otherwise, we are in Maya only. So that is why a Krishna conscious person is in knowledge. That knowledge is the discriminating factor between these two people. What actions will, that is exactly we are talking Karma Yoga, what actions will liberate, what actions will bind us. So here Krishna, how we have to interact with a person who is ignorant. So next verse very nicely Krishna tells, like for example, if somebody is ignorant, they are not Krishna conscious, to such people we should not tell, "Arey, stop all this fruitive activities, it's very it will bind you, don't do this." We should not unsettle them. Rather than that, a person who is in knowledge, what he has to do is, he has to engage that person in active Krishna consciousness. Like for example, sometimes new people, they come, they want to do some service, but they are not like full-on devotees, but they just want to engage, they want to do some service. So then, we engage them to do some cleaning work. Initially, we might give them some cleaning work to wash the dishes, pots of the temple like that. And slowly, by doing that, they are getting this, that there's knowledge in that. They are getting purified and they'll advance like that. Instead of doing, so I should not go and tell them, "Oh, you stop all these fruitive activities, it'll bind, you should stop doing this." If we tell that, then they will go away. We should not tell like that. Rather than that, we should engage them in active Krishna consciousness. This is a person in knowledge. How he has to interact with a person who is ignorant, who has no knowledge, is by engaging them in active Krishna consciousness. If somebody is coming, then they want to give donation, then we have to encourage them. Because, by giving that donation, then, they are getting purified. So we have to somehow engage them in Krishna conscious activities. That way we are giving them opportunity to advance in Krishna consciousness. So that's what Krishna is telling here. Na buddhi bedam janayed ajnanam karmasanginam joshayed sarva karmani vidvan yuktah samacharan. So as not to disturb the minds of ignorant men attached to fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, we have to show our example. By our example, we have to act, we have to do our devotional service and engage them. In that way, that's a very nice way of encouraging them to advance in KC, rather than telling them, "Arey, you stop doing this all, this will bind you, you should not do." So that is why a person who is experienced in devotional service, he knows how to preach to a new person, what to tell, how much to tell, when to tell. Like, we know exactly, by that experience, we know how to preach to people. What is their level? How much can I preach to them? If I preach too much, then they'll run away. Then, experienced person will know how to engage them and how much to tell them, what to tell them, when to tell them. This all we know by experience. So Krishna is telling here, rather by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So why do people, these ignorant people, they think that they are so next verse is telling, prakrte kriyamanani guṇa-karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimūḍhātma kartāham iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. There are three doers. Who are the three doers? Doer number one is the soul, the jiva, which we are. Doer number two is prakriti, the material nature. Doer number three is the super soul. So when we want something, the prakriti will provide by the sanction of super soul. So that is why a person, he thinks that he is the doer of all activities. That is why he gets attached to these things. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego. This false ego is the one that makes him falsely think that he is the doer. Doership. Doership is very strong in him, that he thinks he is the doer. The next verse, Krishna says that this is more like tatvavitto mahabaho guṇa-karma vibhāgayoho guṇa-guṇeshu vartanta iti matvana sajjante. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty arm, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. So this is the today's actual verse. Prakrte guṇa-sammūḍhāḥ sajjante guṇa-karmasu tāna akṛtsna-vido mandān kṛtsna-vin vicālayet. So persons who are not in knowledgeable, they are very much in bodily concept of life, I and mine, and they are spending all their valuable human energy in that direction. But then, they are not even appreciative of Krishna conscious activities. To such people, what do? First, we try to encourage them. The devote, like Krishna says that, do not disturb such people. Some people are very hardcore. They are very strong materialists, hardcore materialists. Sometimes they cannot even appreciate the activities of Krishna consciousness. To such people, Krishna tells that leave them alone. Don't waste your valuable time. Leave them alone. But more merciful than Krishna, the devotees of Krishna, they know what is Krishna's actual purpose and intention. So they go out of their way to preach to people. Because sometimes if they are like we see in like in front of our Keshav Kunj also, near that school, Dhanuka school, every day evening they do kirtan. Why are they doing kirtan? The most auspicious activity in the entire universe is the Sankirtan Yajna. There cannot be a more auspicious activity than that. So the devotees are so merciful, they are so selflessly doing. One day we can do, 2 days we can do, 10 days we can do, but we cannot do continuously. We cannot keep. Maintenance is the hard part. We can begin very enthusiastically. We can stop very easily, but maintenance is very, very hard. That the devotees are so selflessly, they are doing this Sankirtan so that the innocent people, they can hear the sound vibration of Krishna's holy name and they can get attracted. So when Srila Prabhupada, he sat in this Thompson Square, that garden park, and he was chanting the holy name. He gave so much opportunity for these ignorant people to hear the holy name of Krishna. So that is why today Prabhupada became so successful. So this sound vibration, we have to somehow see that it reaches everyone. This preaching is a very, very important activity for everyone. So Krishna's, the devotees of the Lord are even more merciful than the Lord also. They go to so many risks also, they take risk in the process of preaching to people, because they know that sometimes some people are very against it. They may even harm the devotees even at that risk also. They somehow see that even if they somehow give them some Krishna consciousness, they are very, very merciful. They are very selfless in doing this. In the whole world, they are doing the Sunday feast lectures. Every Sunday feast they are doing. So I used to live in Melbourne for a very long time. And the devotees, every Sunday, they cook huge feast, so many items. They start at 10 o'clock and they finish at 4 o'clock and they offer to the Lord. And in the evening, there'll be nearly 600 to 1,000 people come and they eat the prasad. So this is so selfless of these devotees, so to be so dedicatedly doing. One day we can do, 2 days we can do, 10 days we can do, but we cannot do forever, But devotees are so selfless, they want to preach. Because many people, if they are against philosophy or any books or anything, at least they'd like to eat, right? Eating, nobody can, ours is a kitchen religion, So nobody will reject eating, everybody loves to eat. So that is why all temples in the whole world, they are distributing prasadam, food for life, all these things going on. So devotees are very, very merciful to somehow see that they give Krishna to this ignorant masses, so that they can, because today I am devotee means somebody has shown compassion to me, somebody preached me, so today I am able to give this class. Similarly, we have to pass on this mercy to others, and we have to preach to people, whatever capacity. Yare dekho tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, Kurma Brahmana said that I want to come with you. He said, no, stay where you are. But you just always preach to people. Yare dekho tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. Amara agna ye Upadesh. Like that, no? You have to give this Krishna to whoever you see. That way, you are having my association. You will never feel my separation like that. So it is very important to reach this knowledge to everyone. That's why book distribution is very important. Preaching is very important. Whatever we know, we have to tell to others. So I will conclude my lecture by quoting 2 verses. Is it possible to put it here, Prabhu? 7th canto, 9th chapter, verse 43 and 44. Prahalad Maharaj, he is showing us a perfect example as to how one should preach to people. What was his mood in preaching to people? So this 7th canto, 9th chapter, verse 43, this comes in the prayers of Prahalad Maharaj. Very, very beautiful prayers. It starts from 8th verse of this chapter till 50th verse. All these 42 verses are Prahalad Maharaj prayers. So he says in this 43rd verse, Naivodvije paraduratya vaitaranyas tadvirya gayana mahamrata magna chittaha shochetato vimukachetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharamudvahato vimudhan. So this is the verse 43. Yeah. Very nice. So what is the mood of Prahalad Maharaj? So this is very nice for us also to meditate how Prahalad Maharaj was so merciful. Oh, best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. So Prahalad Maharaj was not at all afraid of material existence. Why? Why was he not at all afraid? He said, Magna chittaha, for wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in the thoughts of your glories and activities. For me, I am not at all afraid. Why? Because I am completely absorbed, magna chittaha, absorbed in the thoughts of your glories and activities. But my only concern, But my only concern is that my concern is only that for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness. They are making elaborate plans for material happiness. I only feel, my concern is for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. With love, he is saying. With love for them. I am only concerned with love for them. Then in the next verse he says, very interesting, Prayena deva munaya swamimukti kama maunam charanti vijanena parartha nishtaha naitan vihaya kripanan vimumukshayeko nanyam tvadasya sharanam brahmato nupashye. Very nice, he says, my dear Lord Narasimhadeva, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with the vows of silence, Mauna Vrata. They go to this Himalayas. We see, when I went to Rishikesh, I saw there were so many that hilly tracts. There were so many trees. Under every tree, there were so many people with those matted hairs. They are sitting and doing meditation. So similar people Prahlad is talking about. So he is telling that, my dear Lord Narasimhadeva, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance. Not caring for the big cities and towns, they go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Mauna Vrata. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone. See what is his mood, Prahlad Maharaj. I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to the shelter at your lotus feet. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying that unless everybody goes, I don't want to go. I feel very sorry. With love, I care about them. And I want to see that my only concern is that I see that they reach your lotus feet. Without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Prahlad Maharaj, such a great devotee, he is telling all these things. How good is that? He is saying, I have to liberate all these people, Otherwise, we know how he taught to the schoolmates. The 6th chapter of the 7th canto is how Prahlad Maharaj taught to these demoniac schoolmates. Very, very nice. Thank you all very much for your attention. Hope it made some sense what we discussed. I tried to summarize the 3rd chapter, whatever happened so far. So if anyone has any questions or anything that they liked, they can share. Yes, Prabhuji.
Krishna says action in inaction and inaction in action.
Okay, yeah. In 4th chapter, Krishna says that inaction in action and action in inaction means, so inaction means not no action that has no reaction. So action in inaction means, so inaction does not mean no action. Action that does not create reaction. Action in inaction and inaction in action. Action in inaction means working, but that will cause reaction. But inaction in action means that action that they do that does not create reaction.
Nishkam karma.
Nishkam, like that. So action in inaction, inaction in action means action that does not create reaction. So one who sees inaction in action and action is intelligent among men, Krishna says. Fourth chapter, very nicely, karma, akarma, vikarma, very nicely is explained there. And Krishna says that intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Because action is very intricate. What action will cause what reaction? See, this King Nriga, he was such a great king, he was so charitable, and he was trying to do all good only. But unknowingly he gave in charity a cow. Somehow without even his knowledge, that mixed with the other in his this thing, and he gave charity to her. Just because of that, even unknowingly done, he had to go through this reaction of becoming this lizard, So that is why this karma is very intricate to know why things happen to who. Very intricate. That is why Krishna is telling this. Best thing is to dovetail all actions in Krishna consciousness. Because many people, they misunderstand Krishna consciousness to be like, they tell, don't even join Krishna. They'll tell you to renounce everything. First of all, what it belongs to me to renounce? If I go in front of this Bank of India and tell I renounce this bank, does it make any sense? First of all, that bank does not belong to me. Who am I to renounce that bank? So many people, they misunderstand Krishna conscious to everything renunciate. It is not like that at all. Actually, Krishna conscious is susukam kartum avyayam. Krishna says, Raja Vidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukam kartu. It is very joyfully performed. Why? Because only thing what we need to change is, we have to dovetail whatever activity whatever we are good at. Like for example, if I am good at drawing, let me draw Krishna picture. If I am very good at singing, let me sing for Krishna. If I am very good at writing, I can write for Krishna. If I am very good at cooking, I can cook for Krishna. What is it that you cannot do? Everything that you are doing, just to change, do it for Krishna's pleasure. That's all. Just by changing that, relieve from all reaction. That is the art of doing work. Krishna says in 50th verse of the second chapter, Buddhi yukto jahati haubheshu krita dushkrute tasmad yogaya yujjasva yoga karmasu kaushalam. What is the art of doing work? The art of doing work is to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. That way, you are ridding both good and bad reaction and go home back to Godhead. That's all we have to do, nothing. But many people, they misunderstand Krishna consciousness. They think, they'll tell you to renounce, don't join there. They'll tell you to leave everything. What belongs to us? We came empty, we'll go empty. What is there that to renounce? So this is very wrong misconception of people, but unfortunately they have no sukruti. Krishna says that in Chaturvida bhajante mam janaha, in Nectar of Devotion also it says, devotional service is past life sukruti,
Yesham
tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrata. Krishna says, Chaturvida bhajante mam janaha sukrutinarjuna artho sukruti and dushkruti. 4 kinds of sukrutis they surrender to Krishna. 4 kinds of dushkrutis they do not surrender to Krishna. So Daivihesha, Krishna says, material nature very difficult to overcome. But who will surrender, who will not surrender? But Krishna is very, very merciful Lord. Even though the definition of bhakti is anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyana vritam anukulyena Krishna anushilanam. We have to do bhakti anukul, favorable, not unfavorable. But still Krishna is so merciful. Putana came to feed Krishna poison. And look at Krishna's mercy. There is one verse which says that Aho bakiyam sthana kala kutam jigam shavayapaya yadya asadvi lebe gatim datrimuchitam tatonyam kamvadayalam sharanam rajema. Who can be more merciful than Krishna? Who has given the position of the mother in the spiritual world to this Putana demon. He came with the malicious intent of feeding Krishna poison. He saw her attire and he ignored her attitude. He saw her attire. She came in the form of the mother. He neglected the attitude of her, like this demoniac, the child, like, the child killer like that. So Krishna is so merciful. Krishna says, even though somehow or the other we think of Krishna, like Kamsa thought of Krishna very fearfully. Right from the time he heard from the Akashvani that Krishna is going, the eighth child of this Devaki is going to kill, right from that moment till he died, he was very Krishna conscious. Very Krishna conscious, but unfavorably. But thinking of Krishna in and of itself, completely pure. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. Krishna is Pavitram Param. Thinking of Krishna itself is purifying. So, and also the Shishupal and Dantavakra, in the very first chapter of the 7th canto, Yudhishthir Maharaj asked this question. My intelligence is disturbed like a flame, a candle in a windy place like that. How come this Shishupal getting this so exalted liberation? Even Jnanis, yogis meditating for millions of lives, they are not getting. This Shishupal, the most sinful son of this Dhamaghosh, getting this exalted liberation? What is this? I cannot understand how this is happening. Then this Shishupal, in the Rajasuya Yajna, he was talking very bad of the Sahadev was glorifying, Shishupal was blaspheming. Then right from the time of his birth, when he could even begin to speak, right from that time till his death, he was completely blaspheming the Lord. How did he get this exalted liberation? Then, these 5 people, the Shishupal, Dantavakra, even though they were so very envious and very hating Krishna, but still, because in that enviousness also they were thinking of Krishna. That itself is purifying. And who was the one person who did not think of Krishna in any way and he was sent to hell?
Sorry, what was the question?
I am asking, all these people, they thought, like, even though favorably or unfavorably, they thought of Krishna. Thinking of Krishna itself is so purifying, and they were all liberated. There was one person who did not think of Krishna in any of these 5 ways, consequently he was sent to hell. Who is this? Who is this? Kans thought of Krishna in a fearful way and he was liberated. Krishna killed him. Anybody who was killed by Krishna, immediate, they get. Who was one person who did not think of Krishna? There are 5 ways of thinking Krishna. Krishna says he gives his mercy. What is that? Kamsa by fear, Gopis by lusty desires, and Shishupal and Dantavakra by enmity, and then this, of course, the Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda and all with great affection, and the general devotees like Pandavas and all, they thought of Krishna. So all these 5 people thinking of Krishna, they were all like, attained Krishna's mercy. Who is the one person who did not think of Krishna and in any of these 5 ways, enmity or fear or lusty or whatever, did not think, he was consequently sent to hell. So Yudhishthir Maharaj says that the Shishupal and Dantavakra should also have been sent to hell. How come they got this exalted mukti like that? Who is this one person? What's that, Prabhuji? No. King Vena. Vena, he did not think of Krishna why he didn't think of in any of these ways? Because he was an atheist. He did not think of Krishna in any of these 5 ways. He was consequently sent to hell. So this Shishupal and Dantavakra should also have been sent to hell. How come? They got this. Of course, then the background story is told. These people, they were not actually like demoniac. They were actually Vaikunta, Dwarapalak of the Lord. But because of this cursing of this Jaya Vijaya, they were fallen like that. Then the story comes like that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.